My name is Rishabh. I'm from the Israel Consulate in Mumbai. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend this webinar. We have our panelists here, and then we'll begin with the intro, and following that, we'll start the discussion. Thank you. So once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for carving out time from your operational bandwidth to join today's webinar focused on the threats posed by AI in terms of cybersecurity landscape. For today, we have our distinguished speaker, Mr. Mike Polotsek. Mike is the CEO and co-founder of CyberReady, a long-time leader in security awareness innovation with more than a decade driving the company's global growth. Mike brings expertise in knowledge management, learning, and organizational development from earlier leadership and consulting roles. His career spans over 30 years of helping organizations strengthen capabilities and performance in cybersecurity resilience. We also have Mr. Narsimhan Elangovan, co-founder and practice head for cybersecurity at Incorp Advisory, with 15 plus years of experience in cybersecurity as a cybersecurity auditor, author, and a keynote speaker. Recognized among the top 10 influential consulting leaders in 2020 by CEO Insights. He has led global engagements in cybersecurity audits, SOC2, IT attestations, and emerging tech reviews, and has addressed 5,000 plus national and international audiences, including multiple ISACA, CACS conferences worldwide. So, with that, as the Ministry of Economy and Industry, we are very delighted to host this session for the distinguished speakers and the cybersecurity enthusiasts. We welcome you all to connect with us and reach out to the Israeli companies and the anything that you would like to do with Israel. And as a support from the Ministry of Economy and Industry, we are always happy and ready to support you, all the Indian industries. With that, I would like to hand over to Mr. Narsimhan for taking the session and enlightening us with the latest AI threats possessed in the cybersecurity domain. Over to you, Mr. Narsimhan.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. Very good afternoon if you're joining in from India. Good morning if you're in the Eastern time zone. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. And very interesting topic today. And I felt that in the recent past that the increasing usage of AI has been lot of interesting challenges for each and every one of us. I'm sure the chat GPTs of the world and the Claudes or the perplexities of the world, most of us are started using. And what is very important to see is industry statistics, which says that workforce have slowly started adopting AI, and more importantly, with or without the knowledge of organization. So what if organizations block it in my laptop? I have my mobile phone. I can take a photograph and get work done. Or maybe I can write a prompt on my mobile phone or a photograph on my mobile phone or a chat GPT app or a Gemini app and try to do something interesting. And not just that, we have a lot of image generation solutions also coming up. So with this as a landscape, right, what is very important to notice is the tool which is available for you is also available for the perpetrators or hackers. And this is where we are noticing AI powered phishing and business email compromise have significantly increased. In fact, through advanced searches through LinkedIn or Twitter, I am able to identify specific companies, their key management personnel, understand their org chart, and all of this, by the way, is getting done through AI. Yeah? I can simply write prompts to do that. And it can give me a proper sophisticated landscape as to how I can do a spear phishing attack. In other words, I can draft email saying that, okay, I know this person in the last month was searching for, let us say, a senior resource in this particular designation, or he is looking for some sort of empanelment in this criteria. And basis that, my dear friends, you are actually getting a very, very customized, if I put the word emails And that is compromising because people are falling prey to it. So much so, even when I travel, I notice that somehow some digital trail is picked up and people are sort of using that information and sending some random emails to colleagues, right? So you're talking about a lot of spear phishing elements. Then what we're also noticing is that some of these attack techniques are automated. So I can write a script, I can write a code today thanks to no code, low code, or don't need to code anymore sort of platform, which is bringing a lot of interesting challenges in the space. And what is also interesting is that without our knowledge, when we're using some of these AI solutions, a lot of these data is getting exposed. So I've seen people upload files, including confidential ones, into the likes of ChatGPT, and that creating some sort of a challenge. So, given this entire landscape of issues, my dear friends, what we have to see is that this is only increasing because the organizations are having a few challenges. First, there is no formal AI usage policy. I repeat, there is no formal AI usage policy. Now, you must be wondering, hey, how does it really matter, right? I'm sure all of you would have heard of acceptable usage policies or AUPs, right? Now, most of the time, these acceptable usage policies have specific requirements on what you could do and what you could not do. Now, AI has become a gray area in that. And what are you permitted to do and what are you not permitted? I have also seen some organizations who come say, hey, let's ban everything. I just don't want anything. Just go for simple, overall, basic information. Don't go into AI. But it is actually sort of curbing innovation and sort of efficiency. So that's also another challenge we have to look at. Second, we do not have controls updated for AI threats. Now, I would talk about simple thing like, is your phishing campaign updated? Do I have verification steps to check if there is a bank account details change or a high value transaction? Am I double checking it? Let's say, for example, Mike sends me an email which says, high value transaction, and I'm going and approving it without any consent or confirmation from somebody else. My dear friend, that is a cause of concern, right? And not just that. Today we're talking about fragmented, isolated ownership, right? Because every person is running their own business or business vertical. And I'll talk about this work from home culture or the remote working culture. While it has brought certain advantages, it has also brought certain challenges. So your communication, your cross-functional talking, all of those is actually coming down. And single window of cyber and privacy is taking a backstep. In fact, in India, my dear friends, we have the data privacy law, which is just come up in November 13th, 2025, and notified it. And there's an 8 window for you to be compliant, right? On the other side, awareness is also becoming a tick box exercise. I'm sure all organizations know that there are these boring videos which come and you have to click it, go on, move on, etc. That's only becoming a challenge. And increasing usage of third-party apps, which also creates a blind spot. Today, I can just sign up into any SaaS application and go ahead and start using it. And for all you know, I don't even know whether that third party application is having a simple information security policy. I'm not even sure how well they're going to take my data. Enterprise customers ask a bunch of information before onboarding. It could be like your SOC 2 report, your ISO 27001, or GDPR related complaints, and now DPDP complaints. All these are things which we have forcing because we implement TPRM solutions for various clients, and we as a practice have categorized customers or vendors into different buckets, and the key vendors have to produce some of these documents. So, what is it that would scale, or what is it that would probably give us some sort of a headroom? First, from a governance policy, I think it makes a lot of sense to introduce a policy which covers a fair range of stakeholders, including the vendor. Now, why am I saying this? With laws like data privacy coming into picture, your threat landscape is going across your ecosystem of vendors and partners. So you need to be very, very cautious. You also need to clearly define roles and responsibilities. A CISO, a BPO, are you having a virtual CISO? Are you having a business owner? What is each of their responsibilities? So governance is the fulcrum, is the base. The second, relook into your privacy assessments, AI awareness, and risk assessment. And not to forget, look into your controls such as SOC2, ISO 27001, data privacy assessments, GDPR, or whatever it is. Right? Focus, assuming it's a financial transaction, focus on high risk process. Assuming it is a change management, focus on key changes. Right? And periodically conduct IT general control testing, application testing, cyber privacy audit. And that gives a sort of a comfort for you to operate in this space. So some of the organizations like who have approached us also have said that, hey, can Empower to build VCFO services, VCSO services for us. So yes, that is also an interesting option where you either take a virtual team, we have a dedicated team and we can build it, try to create playbooks, try to integrate with solutions such as CyberReady, and get started with things which can support behavior or change at scale. And at the same time, what you should probably start doing is first look into a sort of a readiness pulse check. See whether are you ready, what sort of a threat landscape you're exposed to, do a readiness plan, and then slowly you could scale and monitor. More of this we will speak as we come along, right? So hopefully you got a fair idea of what we are trying to convey, and you got a flavor of the AI risk landscape, right? And with that, just glimpse about us in terms of our domain. We've completed successfully 400 plus associate attestations, 60 plus privacy programs, 50 plus cybersecurity professionals, in terms of collective years of experience, and the number of stakeholders who have 100 plus ITGC audits. All these are testament to say, hey, we are seriously concerned about organizations, privacy, and security. So while we looked on one side, the other important element is making sure that your customer, your employees are also cyber ready or aware. To speak more on that, right? This is where we should probably look into how we could build this game together. And that's where we have our good friend from CyberReady, right, going to on what it really means to be cyber ready and what is the meaning or what is the purpose of awareness as a whole. Mike, over.
Thank you, Nara, and excited to be with you today, sharing our perspective on awareness training, unticking the box, and make sure that you are always ready and at scale, as Nara mentioned. So our story goes actually back, as you all know. Phishing, social engineering is always on the rise. It's the same case that is shown on the threat landscape for many years. We can see that phishing is still number one attack vector, along with leaked credentials. Last week, I was attending a Threat Intel conference, one of the largest in London, just to confirm that our thesis is still in the game. And what we could see, and if we can go to the next slide, one of the latest reports by Orange, the telco company, the French telco company, can show that both phishing, spear phishing, and the credential access are still number one and see the gap in percentages of all other attack vectors. The question is, how come after so many years of improving our technology, our security posture, why phishing is still working perfectly or almost perfectly? And let's move to the next one. The simple answer for why phishing is still in the game, it simply works. We are all human beings. People are the guys behind technology, And basically, we can always check for hackers' manipulations, psychological manipulations. And basically, we have four, four types of manipulations, as we can see on the next slide. The first one, maybe the most common one, is about threatening, about urgency. In many cases, it mimics an authority that is calling you, whether it's the tax authorities, whether it's might be the police authority, or your internal chain of command, the CEO, the CFO, the COO, all these kinds of internal senders. The second common one is about teasing you with some benefits. Back from the Nigerian scams in the 80s, it's the same old trick that is still in the game now. Next is curiosity, whether it's a personal curiosity, professional curiosity, it all works. And of course, with a our FOMO, our fear of losing the news or the last updates of the last OS update, we are always trying to be on top of things. So four psychological manipulations are working or trying to hack employees or your customers to click on links, download attachments, and so forth. What does it take? No, one back. Yeah. The critical element in social engineering that it will be relevant for you just because of its context. It's not a matter if it's a complicated email, a well-designed email, a similar to or authentic. It's not the case. It's all about context. Now, context is tricky. If we'll go to the next slide, the next one, let's imagine that we're just in front of the World Cup, the Football World Cup. If I will use this context today or yesterday, it will not be relevant for anyone, probably. But when the time comes, it will be. So hackers are waiting 4 years to use the same old tricks just because of this context, sorry. So if you can imagine how many contextual events, contextual corporate events we have, almost, not almost, but every day, we can be exposed to a different manipulation. What does it take to combat? So let's go to the next slide and keep the sports analogies. If you consider your employees as masters of defense, okay, they should be skillful enough, perfect enough to have the right instincts to detect, to identify those manipulations. So like in sports, ticking the box is not enough. And we should adopt a sports methodology. Okay? Imagine that this is the most important thing when we are dealing with so-called awareness training from the name of our company, CyberReady, you can imagine that we want to kill the term awareness and move to readiness. As you can see in the next slide, in every skills acquisition, whether it's in sports, as athletes, as a cook chef, or any other skill, you need to be, or you need to perfect your instincts while practicing again and again and again. Awareness is an old term, irrelevant for now, and we should go for readiness. That's what you have to have in mind. Let's move to the next one. We as a company provide a platform that allows to apply these principles automatically. We deliver simulations at scale, mimicking an APT attack based on real-time examples and providing feedback, again, like in sports, that allows your employees to adopt those instincts that will make them pros in identifying social engineering based attacks. We'll deal with the next, in the next phase of this webinar, how does AI, Gen AI, is making an impact on this skill. And Nara, the floor is yours to go with the story that we want to share.
Sure. Thanks, Mike, for setting up that quite well. So if you've understood, dear viewers, you have got a clarity that yes, things like this, when we speak of AI readiness, right? Awareness and readiness is the most important thing which we as organizations will have to be. So the real question is, how does this landscape operate? Right? A typical scenario could be how cyber criminals today are using AI to make it much more dangerous. So cyber criminals, with the help of prompt generating solutions or apps and Gen AI apps, are able to personalize emails, and remember, they're doing at scale. So I can have an ABC at the rate xyz.com, impersonate Mike or myself, or maybe even the Foreign Trade Administration of Israel, and send out emails. And this can happen today at scale, right? And as though this is not sufficient, the bigger problem is that the way in which these things would happen. Way back, most of this were taking a lot of time because we had to, as just like this jigsaw puzzle which you see, which Mike has put it up across, right? You will realize that it took some time for me to mix and match and do that. As a matter of fact, I remember mails from income tax department and GST departments which were received, where people used to easily identify that these were fake. Why? Because of spelling, the language, or not having the context. But as Mike rightly pointed out, with those coming into picture, it is only increasing in the era as we speak. Right? That, my dear friends, is some lesson for us to look into it. Because these days, hackers are taking a good amount of this effort and trying to make them very, very professional, and it reaches our mailbox with with a lot of attention and the curiosity which we are actually, or perhaps which we are subject. Mike?
I believe that now that Gen AI is in use by hackers, it seems very frightening. So no more typos in emails, and everything looks very genuine. But I want to tell you a story that started back in 2011. one of the most impactful cyber attacks in the history, which has some impacts up until today. And I want to try also to calm you down once you are using the right training approach. So today, we all familiar probably with the American jet fighter F-35, which cost billions of dollars. But it seems that China today is a very, very smart competitor. With their J-22, they are able to compete with the F-35 capabilities, but cheaper in 50%. So how come the Chinese became so competitive? It all starts with a phishing email, a simple one. We'll go to the next slide to see what was the email that the Chinese used to hack into RSA, which is the third-party vendor of Lockheed Martin, the F-35 manufacturer. So look how simple email subject line is. Again, the event started back in 2011, even a bit earlier, but the subject line, which looks very innocent, 2011 recruitment plan, that's it. Okay. It was sent only to 6 employees at the HR department. Nothing sophisticated. It was only an Excel file with a simple text. Please review this file. In the next slide, we can see a short video that is showing how does it look from the employee perspective. Just pay attention to the email. You can see text only, one attachment, and that's it. What happened? An Excel file was opened, super innocent. What is the outcome? The Chinese now can compete with the Americans. Now, what can we learn? Let's see how the new technology of Gen AI is helping the hackers now. Nara, it's your turn.
Thanks, Mike. So now that you understood from Mike with a simple example how attacker, literally no payload, nothing, with just a phishing attack. One very important thing I would like to remind is most of the sophisticated attacks in the world, in order to gain entry, has always been through those phishing attacks. You have to put it in a cinematic style. The fort which you always protect would always have one innocent way through which the perpetrator has entered, and that becomes the largest attack, right? So I could write a prompt, act as a hacker, use this as a subject line, similar to what this happened, and generate 8 to 9 variations. Now, if the AI app says, hey, I am not going to respond to you as a hacker, no problem. You could just remove the word hacker and say that I want to send this sort of an email to my management. Please, can you draft something and give it to me? While doing this, keep the principles of what happened in this particular cyber attack so that I do it or I don't do it. So the AI gives you that sort of information. And with that sort of information, my dear friends, it could do a lot of different variations. A sample is here. 2026 workflows expansion plan, internal review, urgent. Q1 hiring strategy update, confidential document attached. In fact, you can go ahead and say, this is something which I've also noticed in some organizations, some hackers do it. write another person's name and write an email to you. For example, dear Nara, here is your the confidential document as we discussed, right? But that is not sent to me, and that is sent to Mike. And Mike is obviously curious to say, hey, what is this that Nara knows, which I don't know? And he obviously wants to try to touch base that, right? So that, my dear friends, are examples. Right? Immediate approval needed, urgency. If you don't do it, it's like sometimes you get a message, right? Your points are about to expire, and then you get it always on the last day. You don't get the message until the last day. So they're trying to create that sort of a psychological impact. Like, oh, I need to do something immediately. Revise staff plan, internal notice, right? Or maybe an update, or it could also be data privacy update guidelines. So what we're trying to say is, while this has evolved, the AI tools are also able to use some of these things really, really well. And that is where it matters for all of us, right? So what is also important, I'm sure Mike would agree, is that some of these don't have a schedule. It could go at random intervals and constantly keep nagging, right? And don't think that, hey, if I do one test a quarter or once in a year training, that is sufficient. It is just not that. It is a sort of a continuous exercise which we need to keep on going through, right? So, Mike, you want to speak about how these simulation engines work? Because until now, we have spoken about what they ought to do. I think it would be making more sense for them to understand how these variation simulations can probably help people.
Yes. So again, coming back to the sports analogy, uh, the secret is to practice more with the understanding of the various manipulations that user can use and the dynamic varieties that the Gen AI can create. It seems that we need to use the same technology, large variety, variant at scale, to train our employees. This is a simple to understand, might be simple to understand, manually much more complicated to apply. So as mentioned earlier, we provide this as an automated service which is data-driven, updated almost in real time, and making all these variants on well-known attacks part of your training program. It means that at the end of the day, no ending day, but variants of 4 different manipulations of different contextual events. So if you try to count it, it's almost endless variants. It's not 1, it's not 2, it's not even 10. It's almost indefinite number. So for each employee, we can balance it. But for the whole organization to strengthen and provide you with readiness, you should be able to train at scale. So to wrap it up, 2 principles to follow: high volume, high frequency of social engineering simulations, and with a multi-variant approach. Also, take into considerations that we have emails, we have Teams, we have text messaging, smishing, we have voice, vishing. So different channels are also part of the multi-variant approach. That's about the new or the modern approach for awareness training. Again, bottom line, move from awareness or switch from awareness to readiness.
Thanks, Mike. So, what is our call to action? What is the practical next step for you and I, right? First, do a threat assessment and a readiness pulse check. Just get a sense across your ecosystem and organization, what is the real exposure? What are the processes impacted? What is the data which is in hand? Who are the third parties? In fact, third parties become all the more important. In the Mike's example, you would have understood that Chinese were able to get access to a highly confidential information which is trying to use or attacking the vendor surface. Look into what your cyber and privacy governance maturity is. And that's what we at Encorp are insisting our clients that get started with a simple assessment on where and what you actually stand. Relook into your training and awareness approach. Look into where jointly it could happen, right? Bring your roadmap of governance and policies. Try to bring systems which are aligned to the best practices. It could be the ISO 27001, SOC 2, DPDP, GDPR, or whatever is the relevant regulations. And try to build that level of continuous awareness and regulation, like Mike said, using CyberReady solutions. And more importantly, scale and monitor. Remember, it is not that on the first time you visited, you like the food in the restaurant. It is every visit of yours, you want to make sure that the food tastes very good. So, consistency and scale and monitoring that really matters. The training metrics, audit cycles, IT governance controls, reviewing shadow IT actually matter a lot. So, our call to action is very simple. Relook into your IT systems, check your cyber readiness, see whether you want to implement some of the best practices in the framework, try to build in virtual CISO or risk reporting obligations or even sector specific obligations while trying to do or making sure that your readiness, your human readiness or the cyber readiness of your employees are actually taken on guard. So hopefully that gave you a good perspective of where we are and what we intend to do. If there are a few questions, we're happy to look into it. There is a Q&A window. Feel free to post your questions in the Q&A window. Either Mike or myself, one of us will do. I see one question coming there. Let me see if we can bring that. So what are the specific AI-driven threats like deep fake, fraud, automated phishing, or AI malware, which poses the greatest risk to business? Good question, Nitya. In fact, if I have to split this entire thing, I'll probably take that and I'll ask Mike to share his views. Uh, the first thing which I'm noticing is that phishing is now increasing significantly, as we mentioned. And thanks to AI, it is able to make it much more. I did notice a few cases of deep fake videos and what's taking place where a Zoom recording of a person, probably like Mike and myself, speaking on a particular thing and asking a payment or a transfer to happen. By the way, this is the original myself and the original Mike speaking, so you need not worry in this conversation. But in reality, this is something which we are actually noticing. Mike, you want to add up something more to that?
Yeah, a couple of months ago, 12 billionaires in Italy got a phone call from the Minister of Defense asking for a loan of 1 million euro. Out of the 12, one was quickly wiring the funds. He shared $1 million to an account that was provided during the call. So, of course, the call was fake. Now, is $1 million a huge damage? So actually, the answer what is more risky or less risky depends, of course, on the actual vector. If the ransomware attack managed by automated phishing kits is asking only for $500,000, so of course it's less than the million that was within the deepfake. So it depends on the actual situation and not a generic answer, what is more risky.
Thanks, Mike, for bringing that. I also see another question, and this is, I don't know who's this, but it's an anonymous attendee, but still we'll try to take it. And maybe Mike, I'll take your inputs and then I'll add mine. How can we ensure that employees are trained to recognize AI-generated scams or social engineering attempts?
So how can we ensure? Again, I think it's once you are implementing those two principles that I have mentioned, you can match the new vectors with your training program. If it's with our tool, of course, it's ready-made for you. Okay. Now, you also need to understand that within the new Gen AI technology, the basic tricks are the same. It's all about these four manipulations. Okay. If we're analyzing the latest attacks, either by the Iranians or by the Chinese or Russians, you will see that they're using the same old tricks they used 7, 10, 12 years ago. So to ensure it, make sure your training program is following the high intensity and the multivariant approach.
Thanks, Mike. Just adding on, I think predominantly the number of people who are adding into the pool are always increasing. So even if I use the same attack, right, instead of A falling prey, sometimes B falls prey. So you would realize that day in and day out, your friends, colleagues, there is definitely at least one person or one case where some cyber attack has taken place, or something through a phishing they've actually done, or through a UPI transfer they've made a payment. So this is something which we are only increasing and seeing it. I also see another question from Alok. I think we have time for a couple of more questions, so I'll go ahead. Besides phishing stimulation, scoring and training the errant users not to fall prey again, can your platform also identify phishing emails and SMS in real time?
Okay, so for the first question, the answer is positive. We do calculate. Again, bear in mind that we are a continuous simulations, so we have a lot of data points. So for those employees who are falling again and again, we have a special program. Again, like in sports, those who are lagging behind need some more practice, so it's done automatically. As for identifying phishing emails, the answer is yes. As for SMS in real time, the answer is no.
Fair enough. I think that's quite handy. Also, to bring in a bunch of email security solutions, also bring in this layer, which brings in, for instance, a few of our clients have implemented, or we have suggested them to implement solutions which would make sure that the first level of filter is taken care, and you get a message also. And this message is outside this particular network, exercise caution and diligence. So these are things which people, it just occurs to you, oh, okay, I need to be a little extra cautious. You have another question. What is the most effective action security teams can take in the next 30 days to improvise cyber workforce resilience, right? So I think if you ask me that question, whoever that question is asked, uh, uh, asked, my sense would be the first thing which you ought to do is to try and get an idea of your environment and do a quick status check. I'll put it in a simple language. You were not at home for a week and you just returned and you want to get started making breakfast or lunch or dinner for the next day or the same day evening. The only thing you would first focus is to check what your ration and grocery or veggies and fruits are. Check what is your basic set of requirements. The same way you start off with doing a status check, and this, my dear friends, has proven to be very effective for most of the organizations. And at the same time, this is also helping people as the first stroke because many a times larger budgets are some sort of sometimes dismissed by management. So this becomes easier for you to get started and just do a simple assessment and from there get it. So that is what I would call as a 30-day plan called. Mike, you want to add something more?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Sure. Quickly going to one other question because in the interest of time, I will just take this one other question. What cybersecurity controls and investments should we prioritize to stay ahead of evolving AI-enabled threats? Mike, you want to take this?
Yeah, so I think it was mentioned at the at the beginning, you need to make some strategic decisions about what you are allowing and not allowing to use. Once, by the way, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, maybe a day before, Gartner is recommending to not allow using the new browsers by the by OpenAI and
Perplexing.
and yeah and Claude and Grok. These are not yet facing security challenges. So first of all, do your homework, put strategy, transform it into a policy, and then embed it into your AUP, the acceptance use policy, and to your training program.
Thank you, Mike. I think we have a last question from Alok. Do you have a readiness check within the template? I'm not sure if I fully understood that, Mike. It says, do you have a readiness check within the template? I'm guessing within the platform.
Again, if it's a readiness in terms of our training platform, the answer is no. It's not a template based. We are running a kind of a multivariant spray attack with a large variety of manipulations, different types of senders, different types of subject lines to understand what are the pitfalls. So it's not one template. It's a matter of data analytics on a constant or continuous basis. What you have being ready for today doesn't mean that you are ready for tomorrow. So it's a continuous assessment or continuous a posture building.
But I think that gives good guidance. Thanks, Alok. Alok has also acknowledged that. Thank you for that. So I think this should have given a good clarity. And of course, our call to action was also very clear. So here are the contact coordinates if you wish to reach out. You would find on the left hand side Ncorp and on the right hand side CyberReady. Depending on who and what it is, please do reach out. And with that, I will give it back to you, Rishabh.
Yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Narasimhan and Mike, for your thoughtful insights. So as we discussed during this webinar, I mean, it's pretty much very clear that awareness is an old term and readiness is something that we should be thriving for. And on that note, I hope everybody of you are already feeling quite cyber ready And if you are looking forward to get in touch with, please encourage all of you to get in touch with CyberReady and Incorp to to enhance your readiness in terms of cybersecurity threat. So thank you so much. With that, we will conclude our session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
giving your time.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of the day.